friends. Welcome to Books and Data with Lady O. I am so excited to bring you all another NetGalley children's book review. I did get to read and review three new wonderful children's books and a middle grade coming out this year. So let's go ahead and dive right in. All right. First, we are starting off with an absolute My Baby Andre approved. That means this is going to be a great 5-star read for all of our dino loving friends. We have Stemosaurus by Mr. Andrew Root. And I do want to say thank you so very much to Two Lions New York Publishing for allowing this book to be available to review. Now, jumping right in. So we have our Stemosaurus or Stegosaurus, Mr. Spike. Spike is a very, very smart dino. He loves to do math and he loves to build things. But Spike has one little problem. He looks at his friends a bit too much about and ponders on the things that they have instead of fully embracing all of his big brain wonderfulness. Okay, so he has his friend the Bronchiosaurus, and then Bronchiosaurus, has this really long neck, so he's able to play basketball. And then we have the Petrodactyl. I knew I was going to do that. Petrodactyl, not pterodactyl, petrodactyl. And petrodactyl can take off flying as fast as a raven, probably faster than a jet, right? But Spike, again, he's very curious and kind of quiet and reserved. So sometimes he has a bit more of a problem putting all of his greatness out into the world. And then we're also introduced to the big, wonderful T-Rex. Absolutely. And these dinos are just loving life. They're having fun. They're playing games. But again, Spike, he just really loves to read and do math and do science and build all of his contraptions. But one day, oh boy, we look up in the sky and what do we see? Yes, we see the big meteor coming. And Spike is going to use his big brain to try and save the day. However, is he going to have enough confidence in himself to do it? Or is he going to keep looking at what everyone else has that he might lack? This is a wonderful, wonderful story with dinos for our young kiddos to learn to embrace the uniqueness and talents that God has given them. Although this wasn't promoted as a Christian story, Lady O, I can throw some Jesus in there anyway. And I just thought this story was absolutely adorable and perfectly well suited for that age range, 3 to 7. It was perfect. My little guy is 3 years old and he loves some dinos and can name every one of them. So if you have a dino lover and you want to go ahead and let's start planting those seeds of math and science and imagination, Mr. Andrew Root has written a wonderful story to get started. So definitely go and check out Stemosaurus. It is coming out this summer, July 22nd. And thank you so very much again to NetGalley, Mr. Andrew Root, and also to Lions New York Publishing for allowing this book to be available for review. Now, let's move over to something a little bit more spooky. Up next, we have the Fib. This furry little monster we've got here. The Fib is written by Mr. Pedro Iniguez, illustrated by Mr. Nathan Kwan, and Glue Books Publishing. And thank you also so much to NetGalley again for making this book available to review. And I just had the funnest time reading this book. So, the Fib, we follow Pepe, and Pepe has just come back from summer break. And Pepe has a very great talent of drawing comic books. However, Pepe lets everyone else's show and tell kind of distract him or persuade him from sharing his comic book. So, what does Pepe do? Pepe reaches into his pocket and pulls out this little ball of fuzz. And that fuzz begins to grow when Pepe tells a small little fib. The fib turns into a fib. And oh boy, does that fib, and it grows, and it grows, and it grows so big, and then it gets teeth. Ah! And then it starts causing all kinds of chaos. And poor Pepe, he is just torn and he doesn't know what to do. But the fib just keeps growing and growing and growing. Well, we all know what happens when a fib grows, and we all know the best way to make that fib and the pain of the fib go away. And yes, that would be to tell the truth. So I would absolutely say go out and grab the fib coming out October. I think that is perfect timing considering the little monster or the big monster that the fib will turn into. It's going to be a perfect timing for the Halloween trick or treat spooky season, what have you. But yes, I absolutely enjoyed this. And again, it's just one of those sweet little children's books that takes a very serious conversation, a very serious topic of lying, and presents itself in a way that is palatable for younger children. And Pedro, he did just a wonderful job of relaying this story, and I love the Hispanic influences that we can see in there. And also, Nathan did wonderful as far as the pictures. They're all engaging, and that little fib, he's he's pretty scary, but he turns back into something not so scary at the end, and it all kind of goes back what the evil one sometimes means for bad. God definitely turns to good. So go along with Pepe and see how his talents are eventually used for something good, all stemming from this little piece of lint fib that was in his pocket. And up next, we are going to be taking a trip through history. All right, friends, we are wrapping up this evening with a most informative uh, review here, and that is the Sandy Lake Tragedy Following the Footsteps of the Ojibwe by Miss Emily Faith Johnson. And, well, anytime a Native American history is involved, sometimes feelings can get a little hot, I would say. It's always been a sore point for me. I do get a little, I get a little sad, I get a little angry sometimes, but um, history is history. We can't rewrite it, but we can share it and we can keep retelling those stories, not only so we preserve that history, but so hopefully history doesn't repeat itself. Emily does a great job at incorporating all the elements. So, providing the history, providing the richness of the Ojibwe tribe, such as, they living up in the Great Lakes, and tells us why that's so significant because the food grows on water. The lot of fish, very good, rich soil for planting, all those good things. So, of course, the Ojibwe people, they would want to be protective over their land, right? Duh. So, this particular story is significant because we are following the Ojibwe tribe after they had signed a treaty with the U.S. government. And it was during this time, you can kind of see this little map over here, where they had to go to a meeting point. And their meeting point was, pretty central location, easy to get to each year to receive their payment based on the terms of the treaty. Well, of course, as you all know, or may not know, with American history, there were those that did mean evil towards the Native American people, and they did want to go back on their treaties and try to grab up more land than what was already discussed during the initial treaty. And what they did to the Ojibwe people is they moved that meeting location. So it kind of led to their own Trail of Tears, which was very, very sad. The government had forced them to travel a long way to Minnesota and get their payment. And then they also added in the stipulation that their families had to go with them so that they could so called account, which we all probably might grasp that that was just a ploy to steal up more land, cause loss of the tribe, which it absolutely did. It was absolutely devastating. It was during the time of, cholera breaking out. It was very unfortunate for the tribe because they did end up staying with another tribe while they were waiting for their payment. But of course, the area just wasn't big enough to hold that many people and sustain that many people as far as food was concerned. So it was pretty devastating, a lot of loss. And later on, we see got my man up here, Chief Buffalo. He said enough was enough because after they made that long trek back to Wisconsin, their home, and you can kind of see it in the air that like I don't know, I don't trust those Americans, they're about to do something again, and you know what, we're just going to get ahead of it. So Chief Buffalo and a few of his men went ahead and they're like, you know what, we're going to go advocate for ourselves. So they decided to take a trip to go see Mr. President Fillmore, and of course, nobody wants that to happen because then the president would be forced to face the deep dark truth of, hey, you're kind of breaking your word. You're not keeping to the gentleman's agreement, not even the gentleman's agreement, the legal agreement. Like we signed this piece of paper, right? Now, of course, there were many people that wanted to hold back the Ojibways from getting in front of the president. However, along came Mr. New York Senator George Briggs, great ally for the Ojibwe people, and they were able to get that audience with the president, which of course, led to reinstating of the treaties. And I believe, honestly, the way Emily is presenting it, it seems like this was a major turning point for the Ojibwe tribe. If this did not happen, their tribe, they would have been devastated. They could have possibly died out like we've seen a lot of tribes died out. I think this was a very pivotal moment for this tribe in particular in history. It was very interesting to read about. Overall, I absolutely enjoyed the read. I'm a book nerd, so history, all those things I do enjoy. Just a small piece of feedback. Of course, this book was um, marketed for 8 to 12 years old, which I would say the content, the meat of the information is exactly that. However, like my only critique or piece of feedback, if if it's worth a nickel, is with our younger generation right now, this Gen Z generation coming up, they can't read. Not okay, not all of them, but the majority of them. They can't read and process information. Like some of us older generations can. Like they can't sit through these long paragraphs of words. For me, that's fine. I like reading, it doesn't bother me. But I just really enjoyed Emily's book, and I would just hate for the meat of that information to get lost in a cloud of words because those words have a lot of power and a lot of good information that that younger generation does need to know. But it's literally something as small as maybe just reformatting it, breaking it up a bit, adding some, oh, I don't know, different types of emojis. You could add different Native American characters, just break up the words, so it's a little bit more digestible for our wondering eyes of the Gen Z generation where they can't sit still for 5 minutes. But that is my two piece on that. This once again was a great read. I enjoyed learning about a tribe that I wasn't familiar about. This book is coming out on August 1st. Thank you so much, NetGalley, for allowing me to review it. And Emily, thank you for putting out another very piece of another informative piece of history that we all should be aware of. And thank you for your contributions in that area. So that wraps up all of our NetGalley children and middle grade reviews for the month of March. Thank you all so very much for sticking around with me. Please do subscribe, give me a thumbs up if you enjoy seeing these types of videos. I also bring you all along my educational journey as I am pursuing my Bachelor's of Science in Data Science with fun bookish projects as well, if that is something that tickles your fancy. Or you just need some background noise. But yes, have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.